to make new decisions. So M&E has to happen at every step of every process and every project. We see it on paper that there's M&E. But what is obtainable now is that it is just a ticking of the boxes. It's just on our checklist. We are supposed to do it, and we just tick the boxes that we have done it. Meanwhile, M&E is much more than that. We need to be, people in M&E need to be at the planning process, because it is when you plan that you set targets. What are you measuring? You have to identify what it is that is the result of whatever it is you're doing, either a reform, a policy, a strategy, or any process. What are the results that are expected? And that is where M&E should come in. We are not measuring, what is obtainable now is that we measure effort. You stay at the office from morning till night, but what is the outcome of your staying from morning till night? What is the result, right? We have to shift from activity-based M&E to results-based M&E. And you have to be at the planning stage to track whether that result is achieved or not. One of the main issues I have seen is a lack of capacity. It is not just in the civil service, it is in the public service, it is in the private sector also. We tend to train people on a one-size-fits-all approach for M&E. The people in procurement will not use the same M&E model as the people in HR. So why are we having the same training? The training should be customized to the role and even the position. Leaders are supposed to check the M&E people also. So at the leadership level lies what comes out of the tracking and prefer solutions. So leaders need also that M&E training. It is supposed to be mandatory, especially in the public and civil service. You shouldn't be promoted until you have done that M&E, especially for level 14 and above. You need the M&E, because what are you really doing if you don't know how to monitor and evaluate processes, projects, and people, right? So we need to change that one-size-fits-all approach to training, capacity building for M&E. We should train people on role-specific issues. Another thing I saw, in my observation is that at the planning stage, we are not setting SMART targets. Specific, measurable, achievable, and time-bound. We are not doing that. Because sometimes it's when you go as an M&E person to do the measuring that you see that everything was wrong even from the beginning. Even simple target setting for performance is when you come to measure that you see that, no, that target was not set correctly. So, and it's training and capacity building that will help us out of this situation. Another issue with setting targets and planning is involving the right people. At the national stage, at the state level, at the local government level, are people involved in target setting? Do we know their priorities? All of us in public service and civil service exist for one reason: to improve the lives of citizens. So why are the citizens not part of the conversation when we are setting targets? We don't know their priorities, or we assume this is what is best for the people. So we set that target with them. An example is the issue from Rwanda. After the war, they went all out to rejuvenate the country. There's what they call imihigo. I don't know how they pronounce it, but something like that. Performance contracts. They got it from pre-colonial Rwanda, when leaders will set targets for themselves the people involved in setting that target, and evaluate after a period of time. The people that have performed well are celebrated. And those that have not performed well, they give them support to improve. So you see, even in evaluating performance, one very important thing is recognition. You have to recognize the high performers and give support to those that are not performing well. Because how do you expect to improve?
The time is short, so let's go
So
straight
those
to
are
the
the
questions.
issues. Rwanda has now taken that ancient process and put it in their national development plans.
David Sati,
And it is working for them.
The Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation.
Which way for Nigeria?
My question to the panelists is, what mechanism can we put in place to ensure that we institutionalize mentorship within
what we're doing is right, and to also know if we are achieving what we have set out to achieve? It's true. When government make promises, like whoever is at the helm of affairs, like Mr. President, like the governors at the subnational, and like the local government chairman, these promises can only be brought to life, only be converted from promise to a real life impact. Programs that will impact people directly through projects, through reform of things that are not working, like the public sector. And as leaders of the civil service or as leaders of the public sector and as governments, we're always in a hurry to come up with programs, reform programs. Nigeria have a history of a lot of reform programs. The BVN, the TSL, and name it, they are all reform programs. At the subnational, every government have one reform program on the other. The major reform program in the states and at the national level is the public sector reform, because the public sector determines how much the citizens will get, how much they will benefit from the programs of government. Once these reforms programs are spared out, in most cases, we just hit the road running. But we don't step back to measure what are we set to achieve. This reform program, what were they expected to achieve? And to be able to measure all this, until you have the personnel. And you won't have the personnel until there is sufficient funding. Like at the subnational level, I was talking to the lead panelists before we started.